empty cup. Just crack a smile and fill it up. Fill it up.
Welcome to After the Final Pour. I'm Tony Golick.
Yes, you are.
I am. Thank you for confirming that. You guys know what this is. This is After the Final Pour. It's
I'm Tony Golick.
It's part of the malting hour. It's what we do. We throw these in between, where Brandon and I, and sometimes Clark, drink a beer either together or with a guest of some sort. Tonight it's just me and Brandon. I am Tony Golick, one of the hosts of the malting hour, joined always with
Brandon Winninger.
Clark is not here. He has already had this beer and had his own thoughts on it. And it's interesting because this is kind of a precursor to next week's episode, because we had a chance to go to Short Fuse just recently and sat down with head brewer Brian, and we got to drink some really good beers. We got to find out a little bit more about Short Fuse and how they do everything, and actually reflecting back on that, and you guys will understand what I'm about to say. That interview, as fun as it was, is kind of all over the place now that looking back at it. Like we had some questions that we wanted to ask, but we kind of just jumped around. We'll see how I edit it.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. Brian was great. It was his day off, and he came in to the brewery to talk to us. So thank you, Brian, from Short Fuse. But we got to take some beers home that day.
Also, thank you again, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for the beers. We all grabbed four separate. The three of us grabbed 3 separate 4-packs and traded beers with each other. And the one that we're drinking is the one that you grabbed, Brandon. For goodness sakes, Baja Blast Milkshake IPA. And Brandon, why don't you? You've got better lighting as usual. Why don't you read off what's going on in this beer? There's a lot happening.
There's words, so we can read. So
I love words.
This is like Tony said, for goodness sakes. It's an India Pale Ale with cherry, orange, lime, grapefruit, and mango. It's a variant of our Milkshake IPA series. This version is loaded up. Okay, I thought I was misreading, but I'm going to go with it. This version is loaded up lime and tropical fruits of cherry, orange, grapefruit, and mango, made to replicate a milkshake with the addition of milk sugar for a nice creamy body and fruit puree to sweeten it up. Pleasant bitterness at the finish to bring home this IPA.
So
yeah,
when I first popped it open, I smelled blueberries. Like it literally, it was like, maybe not blueberries, but that's the first thing I picked out, which is not in this beer, but there was like this very strong fruity aroma. And
there still is.
Like, yeah, it's lingering. And this beer is coming in at 7.5%. It is, we had an impression about it when we first took a sip and started talking about it. And now that I've taken more sips and poured more and hearing more of the fruit that's in there, I actually like it. I actually kind of like it a little bit more than the way I felt when we first started talking about it before we started recording.
Yeah. So, and
kind of growing on me.
It's no secret of our, how we kind of go away from milkshake IPAs.
We hate them.
Not all of them. Not all of them. No,
we
had a very select few that we like.
Brickstone, we like. I know there's a couple other ones out there that we.
So I don't want to say we hate them, but like, just some of them are just not done well, I guess is the best way to say it. So
it doesn't fit our palate, so to speak.
I picked this 4-pack specifically because we have questions about milkshake IPAs to begin with, and it said Baja Blast on there. I'm like, really? Now I gotta get it. So
like the Mountain Dew.
Yes, but it was also me
from Taco Bell.
I'm gonna get this and not get the 11.5% beer that Clark was drinking all morning.
That's got to make its way onto an
it will
pour. I mean, it
will at some point.
Yeah, it just sounds so good.
But yeah, so it kind of to what Tony said when we first poured it. I was getting these fruity aromas. I wasn't getting blueberry, but when he said blueberry, I can see where he's coming from. And then the first sip was just I guess that's what it's overwhelming. There's a lot going on there.
It's a bit at first sip, it's kind of muddled.
Yes.
Like you said, there's a lot going on. Not muddled in the sense where it's like, you don't get anything. You get a lot of the fruits that it mentions, but like I said, as I've poured more and I kept taking more sips and more sips and more sips, I don't think I would classify this myself as a milkshake IPA. There's a standard of what I've come to expect from a milkshake IPA. This to me is just a very fruity beer, very fruity IPA. There is a lot going on here. My first impression was I did not like it. Now, as I'm drinking it a little bit more, Brandon, one of the things that I said to you was that it kind of reminds you of limeade, the cherry limeade, like the old soda where cherry and lime, or limeade. Was that a soda? Was limeade a soda, or is that like Kool-Aid?
I don't know, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't think it was a soda. I think limeade it's not a carbonated drink. Although I feel like if you go back in time, limeade was something that was carbonated. I don't know.
Hey, everybody, if you have an idea what limeade is, send it to us.
Yeah.
What's throwing me off with this beer is the bitterness. I feel like if it was less bitter, it would be something that I would enjoy more. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think there's a market for this, or that there isn't a market for this.
And the thing is, it's 30 IBUs, so it's not that it's overly bitter, but I think the issue is that you're getting all this fruitiness, and like the can says there's a pleasant bitterness at the end, but I think that bitterness kind of it totally detracts everything else. Like now it's like, okay, that's all you can focus on the finish is the hoppy bitterness. But
I think it's the grapefruit that might be throwing it off.
That probably is
like that like grapefruit. I love grapefruit IPAs. I love grapefruit and pale ale. I like grapefruit in general, but I feel like maybe with the lime here and whatever hops that are used, like you said, it's a very low IBU IPA, but there's just kind of like this the back of the tongue like bitterness that is not astringent, but it's kind of sharp.
I think it's grapefruit. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's trying to find that balance. But like I said, if the grapefruit was taken out of this, I think this would be solid. I do think that there are a lot of people out there that at least I know who would really like this, who would really, really enjoy this beer. And go ahead. I was to say, from everybody, go ahead. As you guys will hear from next week's episode, we talk about what Short Fuse does with their beers. There's a lot of over the top beers. We talk about their Berry White, their white wheat ale with that tastes like gummy bears, and then they have another beer where they actually have like Sour Patch Kids in their beer. The fruits that they use, how they add these flavors to their beers is pretty impressive. They definitely go over the top, and they really go all in, and it's well thought out as well. Like there isn't just like, hey, let's just throw a whole bunch of shit together and here's a beer. I just feel like maybe it's the grapefruit that's kind of hitting me the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would just to kind of piggyback off that.
I'm not gonna dump this beer by any means.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's a very good beer. I can definitely drink it, and the more I drink it, the more I actually enjoy it. Right. You get used to those flavors. You're expecting that bitterness at the end, and you just kind of wait for the next sip, and it's just as enjoyable because the flavor profile you get like right up front is super prominent. And what I told Tony like right before we started recording was, because we both took a sip right in the beginning, and I was like, I'm getting a lot of cherry, and I was getting that right at the beginning. And now it's like, I'm getting cherry and lime, and I'm starting to be able to taste more of those different fruits more. And I like it. And like, this is just weird and kind of gross. I just kind of licked my lips and I was like, I got orange. I got orange. Like when
That's not weird, man. It's a part of the whole experience.
Reminiscent of like drinking orange juice and like licking your lips. I was like, oh man, there's the orange. I'm like,
The
weird
lime
place for you to hang out. Like,
yeah. Thanks for choosing my lips. I really like the lime in this, and maybe it's because there have been certain beers that we've talked about that have lime in it, and actually I have my lime goza. This is the most patient I've been with a beer because I've been so busy that my beer has just sat. It's done fermenting. It's been done fermenting, but I'm actually giving it like the full almost 2 weeks to sit in the fermentation vessel.
nice.
To just kind of, do its thing and then finish and make sure that everything's done there. And I'm going to transfer it soon. But the lime now is kind of sticking out for me. And I really, really like that. There's a sweetness to it. I don't know if I would classify this as a milkshake IPA. I am going to compare a beer here, but I'm not saying like, hey, this sucks in comparison, but that Brickstone, milkshake IPA that we had really hit it for me where I was like, oh, okay, I see that. And then there've been some milkshake IPAs from Maplewood that I've had that are very good. As far as a milkshake goes and what that idea is that I've come to accept is that there is like this like vanilla sweetness that you're having like a milkshake. And I don't necessarily get that. There is a sweetness to it. I guess I would, for me personally, I think and honestly, I haven't had Baja Blast Mountain Dew, so I don't know what that's like. But even going back now and smelling it, as you guys can hear, as I'm taking these deep whiffs of the beer, I get a lot of lime. I get a lot of lime from it, and I think that's what I'm finding very pleasant about this beer and what I really like about this beer. I would definitely have it again. As far as trying, it's not turning me off from trying other variants of this beer. I just don't know if it fits the milkshake IPA criteria that I've come to know.
Yeah.
And and that's just my opinion. That other people might think otherwise, but I really do like the lime. There is like this lingering flavor of the taste of lime in my mouth as I'm keep drinking this. And
so to your point about that, I think what would be nice is if we did have that vanilla aspect that you would get in like those typical milkshake IPAs, like the vanilla and I guess that's kind of missing because this is drinking like an IPA. It doesn't have that like that additional little bit of thickness or a little bit of body that goes with it.
Right.
But I think that is what would tie it all together for making it like for the description, making it be like a milkshake in a glass with all these fruits.
Yeah. I think that exactly what you're saying, like that vanilla, almost like vanilla ice cream sweetness and take off that back bitterness that I think that we're getting from the grapefruit would really round this beer out to make it what I think they were trying to go for. But then again, like I said, I think there is people out there who would really enjoy this. I mean, it's just that back bitterness that's kind of bothering me, with this, knowing that it's a milkshake IPA. But like I said, the lime really stands out. I am getting a bit of the orange and a bit of that cherry. And when I opened, I don't get a whole bunch of mango. I think all those citrus flavors are kind of overpowering the mango. And I think that a little bit more lactose would really, or vanilla would up the milkshake experience of it. It's very smooth. It's very silky. It reminds me of a nice like hazy IPA. And again, what I'm about to say is not a knock on this beer, but we did see like floaters in there, which also means that they're using, real ingredients. Sometimes that sediment kind of gets left over into the beer that doesn't get filtered out. That doesn't bother me. I actually, when I see stuff like that in a good beer, I'm like, oh, look at that. There's something still in there because you use these whole ingredients. And from what we've learned from Short Fuse, they really do go all in on their beers. So I think it's a fine enough beer. I definitely wouldn't say it's a bad beer by any means. I don't think it's a beer that I would necessarily seek out, but I will continue to try the For Goodness Shakes series, because having this, it's good enough for me to want to try another one to see what else is out there, because this is our first, for us at least, our introduction to the For Goodness Shakes milkshake IPAs that they do. And having what we've had in the past and having what we had for the interview, I can only imagine what the other ones taste like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, piggybacking off that, like, so when you hear the full interview that we did with Brian, like no lie, I love the beer that I had.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of, the sentiment was kind of well-rounded. We each chose a different beer to drink during that episode. And we each got beer to take home, like we said, but we kind of did a mix up your pack. So we did that. And, the one that I had recently was phenomenal. I loved that beer.
Which one did you have?
What was it? The Juicy
Juice is Loose. Juicy Lucy. Juicy Lucy is a burger. I think it's Juices Loose.
Yeah. Yeah. When I just kept calling it Juicy Lucy, I was like, all right. But regardless,
Juicy Lucy's a burger. Short Fuse, the Juice is Loose is what it's called.
And that was phenomenal.
It was really, really good. It was actually, I put it up there, as people have listened before in the past, like Lejeune and Son of Juice are some of my favorite, like, local hazy IPAs that are readily available, that aren't like those crazy over the top hot bombs or sweet hazy IPAs. But yeah, the Juice is Loose is really, really good.
Yeah, agreed.
And then you got this one, and then I grabbed Tropical Hurt Locker that I gave a can to Jeff's daughter, and she tried it today and she said it was really, really good. And that's a raspberry, I think it's like raspberry and passion fruit or apricot, something. I'll have to double check the can, with a little bit of lactose. So there is that sweetness in there as well. And she really, really liked it. And she's someone that she doesn't always agree on the beers that I like. So the fact that she really, really liked it, I know that I'm really gonna like it. So I'm gonna save that can to split with my wife. So I'm very excited to try that one. But yeah, so I mean, I think this is just you know what? You had said, like, not to be gross, to lick your lips, orange juice. Now the aftertaste in my mouth that I haven't taken a sip in a while, there's kind of like that lingering orange juice aftertaste in my mouth.
See?
I kind of feel like this beer grows on me. It is growing on me. There is like this really nice tropical fruit. I feel like I'm trying to like justify this beer, and I'm I'm not. I'm not. It's just there is that like that strong bitterness, or that bitterness, not strong, but like this bitterness bite at the end that just kind of makes me like a little bit of put off by this beer. But it's not a bad beer. It's just
no. And I like I said, I get what you're saying. I think that's, well, I think it's the grapefruit, and you have to, if you know it and expect it, it's completely fine. And like once we've kind of figured that out, like drinking it, I enjoy it. Like, this is solid, man. Like, again, I'm not a huge milkshake IPA person, so I wouldn't necessarily go back. But knowing that there's a huge line of this, and so I just, while we were talking, kind of went in Untapped and I checked this.
Oh, I saw.
But it came up a whole bunch of, like, the whole series, and like there's a ton of these. So I would be interested in trying like many more of these.
I think to do this beer justice, and as you guys will hear next week, our interview with Brian from Short Fuse, that how much we really do like their beers and how much we've enjoyed it, that maybe we need to revisit another For Goodness Shakes for an after final pour with Clark.
Yeah,
Clark's not on this. He didn't. This was kind of a last minute idea, because the worst. Brandon, you're about to go out of town, and we all had this beer, but Clark wasn't able to meet up with us tonight. Clark had this beer already, and he also kind of had the same feeling about this beer. Although he is also suffering from some post-COVID symptoms, which a lot of people are suffering from. That if you had COVID, it'll change your taste and scent. So he had some different feelings about this beer, that it just wasn't clicking right. From what I'm hearing, people who have had COVID, certain things, certain food, and I don't think it was on the interview, but Clark was talking about there's certain wines that he has now that, like, if he has a red wine, there's like a nutty flavor to it that, like, nuttiness is not in wine at all. So
Yeah,
we can't really trust what Clark says anymore. He's just been.
It's a bit nutty.
I gotta trim that clip down.
No, that's fine. I knew it was coming because I heard it. Yeah, he there's a guy I work with. He had told me that when it comes to potatoes, there's things like that when he French fries, any type of potato, whatever, there is this like off taste to him. So that sucks, man. But yeah, I think Clark did kind of share the same sentiments that we had, as far as, you know, there's just something about it that's it's good, not something that maybe we would necessarily have as far as this variant of it. So Short Fuse, there's things about it that I like, things about it that I don't like. We're going to be as honest as possible. But for you guys to hear about some other Short Fuse beers that we had that were phenomenal. Brandon, you had Hop Cycle. Do you remember the hops that were in there? Was it Mosaic and Citra? Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic combination. Clark had, I think it was called Short Stacks, which was a wheat wine that had maple syrup and cinnamon. In it. Yeah, 11.5%. So that's what he was doing.
Because that's all that Clark could taste was maple.
Yeah, well, he thought that was great. And I had a wild fermented peach beer. I don't remember the name of it, but it was
Pesh
something. Yeah, I had Brian
Depeche Mode.
It was Depeche Mode. I had a Depeche Mode beer, but that was like very crisp and clean, not clean, but like, yeah, no, it's crisp, clean, tart, and very much a
Peche Sauvage.
There you go. It was very refreshing. That was a very refreshing beer, especially for how hot it was Saturday morning. Agreed. That we were having a beer in a brewery first thing in the morning. It was fantastic. But, you know, so Short Fuse, keep doing what you're doing. Looking forward to trying more of the For Goodness shakes. And yeah, man, that's about it. You got anything else, Brandon?
No, man. Like you said, I'm looking forward to trying that. And just to kind of do an extra bit of promotion for Short Fuse, I know they have an event coming up called Hops in the Summer.
Yeah, baby.
It's happening on June 12th. I'm pretty sure you can get tickets on their website, but it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's a good old fashioned beer fest, because I have not been to it, but I think it's kind of the way Brian describes it in the episode is that you can come there, try beers from obviously Short Fuse, and then they're going to have some guest breweries on tap as well. And it's kind of just a promotion of hops. They normally do it in the spring, but you know, COVID is a bitch and has changed some things. So this allows them to kind of, you know, they're now able to do it this summer. I'm sure it's a limited ticket series, but pick up your tickets and you can totally check out Hops in the Summer. I think we kind of talked about possibly going out there too. So we'll see, you know, see what happens.
I talked to the neighbors today about it, and I think we're all going to plan on trying to go out there. And they're going to have guest taps as well. Yeah. And when we were there, there's like over 20 beers on tap at Short Fuse. They have so much, and one of the beers that we didn't try was their Shamrock Shake Stout that I regret not trying. I should have gone with that. I don't regret getting the peach beer, but after doing the Shamrock Stout from Goose Island, I wanted to have some more of that chocolate mint goodness.
Yeah, Clark was kind of pushing us in that direction. And actually, in theory, it was only 6.5%. So it probably wouldn't have been as a bad decision as Clark made. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure he was feeling very good by the time he was heading home. But yeah, so Short Fuse, thank you for these beers. Like we said, maybe the next time the guys at my job order from Taco Bell and they get a Baja Blast, I'm gonna ask for one so I can kind of compare it to it. Because when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's a Taco Bell that's near Short Fuse that we didn't know of, and that's what inspired them to do it. Maybe they hey man, I'm not shitting on Taco Bell. I love authentic Mexican food, but also I fucking love Taco Bell. Taco Bell is delicious. That is my promotion of the night. Taco Bell, give us some free tacos.
They're not a sponsor.
They're not a sponsor
yet.
I just want free tacos and chalupas. But I also love authentic Mexican food. Okay, that's I think that's a good place to end it. Tony's rant. We're not getting any Marvel movies or Marvel shows, but we could. We're just gonna end it with Taco Bell. Brandon, love you, man.
Love you too.
And everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week for the full interview of Short Fuse and Brian. Bye. This has been The Malting Hour. Be sure to follow us on all social media by searching The Malting Hour and at themaltinghour.com. You can also follow us on social media platforms individually. Brandon can be found on Instagram as BMDub81, on Twitter, BDub81, on Untapped, BDub Drinks Beer. Tony can be found on Instagram and Untapped under Asa Phelps Chicago. On Twitter, The Asa Phelps Chicago. Clark can be found as Clarkowski on all three. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate the show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Until next time, cheers from all of us at The Malting Hour.